Hey guys, welcome back again to Rebuild Reality. It is nice, as always, to be here with you guys once again. So today we are going to be answering a question from a viewer who asked, how do you maintain peace when 3D is literally showing you the opposite to every one of your desires? Well, I actually had a client that was going through this recently. And basically when he came to me, he said he was just kind of going a bit crazy by this point because he felt that the more he was trying to manifest the changes that he wanted, he said the worse things are getting. And that's really not uncommon for a lot of people because you can't, change to a new reality if you keep paying attention to the old one. As I've stated before, there's that saying, you can't serve two masters. You can't live with one foot in one reality and one foot in the other at the same time. It just doesn't work. So my client had been trying to manifest a better financial experience for himself, as well as to really make his business take off and be like a hit, be a real success finally. He said that he wasn't, new to the world of reality creation, but it had been 10 months since he had been trying to improve his business and his finances. And he felt like really, things have just gone from bad to worse. And he was at the point where he was thinking of actually closing his business and going into something else because by then he had gotten himself into a lot of debt. So, we talked about it and he told me about all the processes and techniques he'd been trying over the last 10 months, to manifest his desires. And, he explained kind of where he was at mentally and things like that. And he said that basically what he was doing is in the evenings, he was spending most of his time working on manifestation because he's like, that's when I have the time. He's like, and what I'm doing is I'm writing affirmations and I'm doing a lot of self-talk. But I'm like, okay, well, then what else is going on? Because clearly something else is going on and that's not enough. What else is going up against that? So when I had him go into more detail about what he did during the day, I found out that he was actually in the process of having to talk to a lot of debt collectors that were calling him regularly, which led him to constantly run his financial numbers for his business, crunching his numbers, looking at his bills, trying to figure out, how am I going to pay for everything? How am I going to keep this thing going? So in reality, he was focusing almost his entire time on the lack of money for basically all day, every day. And I totally get that when the 3D is right in your face and there you are trying to convince yourself that everything's just fine, that things are wonderful and all your problems are just going to evaporate into thin air, all the while your 3D experience is literally screaming in your face, denying everything that you're trying to convince yourself of, So I understand how it can seem like you're doing your best to scrub the undesired reality out of your life, wash it away. But at the same time, it seems like your 3D world is constantly throwing up its version of reality all over you when you're trying to deal with all the people's demands and the life's, situations, let alone your own head, And for me, that was probably the hardest. I was dealing with my own mind, 24/7 with its doom and gloom, as it does, telling me that if I didn't bust my ass and do what it said to do, when it said to do it, that basically when it came down to it, that I was a goner, that I may as well just pack it all in, take myself off the planet. But you know what saved me? Me. I saved me. Because one day it just hit me. Oh my God. I'm living my life being threatened every single day. And I'm being threatened by my own mind. And for me, that was just my line in the sand. There was no way I was going to live with anything or anyone, let alone my own mind, threatening me every single day. Because really, that's what it came down to. And that's when I finally started challenging my thoughts. That's when I stopped believing everything that my mind said automatically and just agreeing with it because I thought it was me when it wasn't. Because as we know, your mind's just going to tell you the worst case scenario. It's going to fill you with fear. You know, it's going to keep telling you about how there's danger everywhere and how terribly wrong everything's going to go with your body and your life and the people in your life and, you know, your society, your government, your entire world. And the thing is that if you believe that, then that's exactly why those things are showing up in your version of reality. And this is exactly what was happening with my client, because he was spending most of his days, you know, steeped in fear, believing everything that his mind and his senses told him, not really grasping that he was the one that was literally creating the reality that he was experiencing. Because he didn't know that he didn't have to agree with the things that his mind told him, that he didn't have to agree with his senses. Because as I always say, when tested, your senses don't tell you the truth of reality, and neither does your mind. Your senses are all being interpreted by your brain, and your brain is making random guesses that it lines up to fit your thoughts and beliefs. So neither of your mind, your brain, your senses are telling you anything about reality. You know, all they're ever going to do is show you your view of your reality, your view of yourself in the world. And that's why scientists are always saying that we see less than 1% of reality, because all your mind is doing is it's just running its own TV show for you based on the script that's coming from your thoughts, your beliefs, and your assumptions. And that's why Neville Goddard, you know, said, and I put that in my community post the other day. Let's see. It says, live your life in a sublime spirit of confidence and determination. Disregard appearances, disregard conditions, in fact, disregard all evidence of your senses that deny the fulfillment of your desires, and rest in the assumption that you are already what you want to be. So when 3D is showing you the opposite of what you want, disregard it, because you have to get to the point where enough is enough. That you can't let it control you and rule you anymore. You can't allow your mind and your senses to just threaten you every day and dictate to you who you're going to be and what's going to happen to you. You can't give it that kind of control, that kind of power, which is why you need to change your thoughts and stop accepting any kind of thoughts of failure, wherever it's coming from. This is what this whole thing is about, you guys. When 3D shows you something and it's not what you want, you disregard it. You disown it. You refuse to claim it as your reality. You refuse to validate it. You look at it like you're looking at a TV show, and you tell yourself, not my world, baby. You detach. That's not mine. Because really, how could it be? Now, if you're identifying as that person, if you're still seeing yourself as the same old person that you've been, then yeah, then that's that 3D character story. But you're not that 3D character anymore, and you know it. You know it because you're waking up now and you're remembering that you've never been that character, that that identity of that person with that life is literally nothing but a character you've been playing. It's not the real you, and it never will be, because the real you is love, is bliss, is happiness, joy, peace, and absolute fulfillment. The real you doesn't even know negativity, because all negativity is an illusion born from the illusion of separation. That's where it comes from. So, not a part of my world, because if you're identifying as a real you, the I am that I am, then all that stuff isn't yours, is it? All those negative people and life experiences don't belong in your life story anymore, because you, as the great I am, as all that is, gets to say what goes here. So don't just automatically agree with your thoughts. Don't let it have that kind of power over you anymore. And I'm going to tell you right now that some of the most powerful words in the entire universe are, I don't care. Why? Because why would you care about a reality that's just based on your previous thoughts and beliefs about yourself, that's gone. It's over. That is done and dusted now, because that's not you anymore. You're not that person now. And that reality belongs to, as Neville Goddard used to point out about what it said in the Bible, the old man. That's just the old story with the old people, the old reality. It doesn't belong to you anymore. And any experience of it that's coming up is just the old story fading away. So pull yourself out of it, because it doesn't belong to you. So stop claiming it. Stop saying that it's still your problem, that it's still your reality, that you still have things to overcome. Stop saying that it has any kind of control or power over you. Stop saying that this stuff isn't working. Stop saying that things aren't happening. So this is what I told my client. I said, you want a new life, a new version of you, the one who doesn't have any more of those financial problems anymore. Then stop agreeing that the old reality still belongs to you. I said, you have to disassociate yourself from it. You have to know that that's nothing more than just the old story playing out. And I'll tell you now, when you make a decision that that old reality doesn't belong to you anymore, when you stop identifying with it, just know that chances are things are going to start to, that boat is going to start rocking, because the old version of you doesn't want to die off. That old ego identity doesn't want to leave. So it's going to, keep trying to tell you that the old story is absolutely yours. When it's not. That's why you just have to persist. That's not me anymore. Whenever it says it, oh, that's your problem. No, it's not. That's not me. That doesn't even belong to me anymore. Oh, what about this? What about that? Not my world, baby. And if you can embrace that attitude, of detachment and I don't care, or so what, as a response to anything your mind has to say, anything that doesn't align with your desires, then I'm telling you, you're going to be powerful, because the world won't own you anymore. Your mind and your senses won't own you and control you anymore. So, and if you really want to put this to the test, do it. Absolutely do it. Call it out. Call out your mind. That faceless, formless thing, okay. You want to threaten me? You want to tell me that I'm going to get in trouble if I don't listen and do what you say? That I'm going to suffer and be homeless and broke and then I'm going to die? Well, I'm going to go ahead. I'm challenging you. I'm going to call you out right now. If that's what's going to happen, then go ahead. Go ahead. Do it. Do it now. You keep threatening me with the same vague, doomsday story my entire life. So get down here and do it then. Because I am calling you out. I'm challenging you right now, right here, to do your worst. If you can. This is your chance. Come on, baby. Do it or shut the F up. So I told my client this, and he absolutely loved it. He said, oh my God, you are so right. I'm being threatened by my own mind every single day. He's like, no way. I'm not going to be doing that anymore. So basically a week later, we had another session, together. And he said, you know what? I did what you were talking about. I called it out. I called out my mind, with all of its threats and everything. And he's like, you know what happened? He said, exactly what happened to you. Absolutely nothing. And he said, that's when I realized that all those thoughts, all those threats were completely empty and baseless threats that don't even apply to me. And once I understood that, I couldn't let it keep bullying me anymore, he said. He said, now I'm going to be the one to tell it what my reality is, and I'm not going to let it tell me anymore. So he went off and to basically apply this thing. And he said, I'll tell you what, at this point, even if it doesn't work, at least I feel a whole lot better about this stuff. So we didn't have another session together again for another 3 weeks. But right before our next session, he sent me a message and said he couldn't wait to talk to me. So I knew something was up. And when we did, he told me that about 2 weeks after we'd last spoken, he ended up getting a huge job from a new client that said that they had seen his work and that they were really impressed with it, with the designs that my client does. And after meeting with him a couple of times over the last few weeks, they offered him a job to redo all of the offices in an entire 6-story office building that they had. And then after that, they were actually even talking about having him do all the interior design for 2 showrooms that they're going to be opening up as well. Not only that, he said, the owner of the company referred one of his friends to him because they were looking for someone, and he said that that person also seems very interested in his work. So my client said that just that one job alone, just the one with the office buildings, was going to keep him really busy for an entire year. But that, because, he said, this is the thing, he said, because I loved what you told me about telling my former reality to piss off and anything about that. Because he's like, I'm not a poor, struggling designer anymore. He's like, I actually quoted them way more than I normally ever would have dared to ask. And he said, the company ended up having no problem whatsoever with that. He said, in fact, it seemed like they actually seemed happy to pay him that money because it fit with their view of themselves and that they considered their company this really high-end company. So now he's like obviously on cloud 9, totally on cloud 9. So how do you maintain peace when 3D is showing you the opposite to all your desires? 1, you know that when you declare yourself to be somebody new, that things are going to start rocking. They may turn upside down before the dust settles, but don't let that bother you if it does. Don't take it as a sign that your manifestation isn't happening. If anything, take it as a good sign because it means that the old world is being scraped up and put in the trash to make room for a new one. 2, start challenging your mind and its narrative of your life. Start challenging what it says to you. And this is important because it's all that self-talk. It's creating everything to begin with. And that's why Neville Goddard emphasized the importance of controlling your self-talk over and over and over again throughout his entire career. Choosing what thoughts you're going to accept and only agreeing if they apply to the storyline that you want. Taking charge of your life experience instead of being dragged along all over the place, several times a day by your mind's negative assumptions and predictions of your life story, because this is where real change begins. And number 3, recognizing that anything that doesn't align with love, happiness, joy, peace, and fulfillment, which is who you really are, that's your true nature, doesn't belong to you. Negativity and non-fulfillment no longer belong to you because that's the 3D illusion stuff. Because as the creator of all that is, anything that is the opposite to those states of being were only created as a result of the illusion of separation. And now that you're going to identify as your I am, anything that is less than love, happiness, joy, peace, and absolute fulfillment has absolutely nothing to do with you anymore. So I hope that that client story helps you guys in that information and what they went through, and to really, as Neville said, disregard your senses. Obviously not when something is dangerous is coming up in your reality, but in general, disregard your mind, disregard anything that's coming up. It's like, no way, are you kidding? You're an idiot for thinking that. Nope, sorry. You're not telling me about my reality anymore, because now I get to say, now I am the ruler of my reality. So thank you guys for being here with me once again, and I look forward to seeing you here next time on Rebuild Reality.